Okay, welcome in, folks. Welcome back to another deep dive. I am your host, Dr. Shawn Smith, and today we got a different kind of discussion on. The discussion question for the day is: what are you making into a problem that isn't? What are you making into a problem that really isn't a problem? And as we jump into this video, which is the 5th episode of the True Freedom series, we're going to be talking about manifestation and we're going to be talking about faith. And the video is, or was originally entitled, still is currently titled, "Stop Believing That You Have a Money Problem." And as episode 5 of the True Freedom series, it is allowing us to see the final component of the system I call transcendent psychology. It's allowing us to see the final component of the system that I call transcendent psychology. Where have we been thus far? We have been, episode 1, we talked about returning to your root, returning to the root in awareness. When that happens, we get access to 3 powers. The 3 powers episode was episode 2. Those 3 powers are: we can decide who we are, how we feel, what we create. As we step into awareness, get access to our 3 powers, now we can go deeply into each power. Episode 3 was a treaty on the first power, which is our identity, a treaty on consciousness. And so as we move from consciousness, we don't move from consciousness, I'm sorry, as we go deeper into consciousness, I should say, we get access to 2 particular qualities of consciousness, which is to say, we get access to what is known as the Idon mind, which is your ability to say, I don't mind, to whatever is happening and mean it. We call this inner peace. We call this happiness. And the second quality of consciousness is faith, the ability to manifest all of reality. That's what consciousness is constantly doing. Consciousness is constantly manifesting all of reality. Let me make sure my sound and quality is all good before we leave. Okay, I'm getting someone saying straighten the necklace. Okay, cool. Gotta make sure the necklace is straight. Excellent. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and turn my screen on. And let's go ahead and jump into the very first component of this video. Because again, the theme of today is: what are you making into a problem that isn't actually a problem? When I started making this video, I was thinking about all the times that, especially if you're an entrepreneur, or I mean anybody, any adult is going to have, I should say most adults are going to have moments where they believe that money is the only thing that's standing in their way. And so this lesson that we're about to dive into is about taking responsibility even over what we believe our choices are, so that we can see that we have more options than we tend to give ourselves credit for. There are more options available to us. And so I'm going to click here. Let's go ahead and jump into the first part of this. Here we go.
You do not have a money problem. There's no such thing. I'm saying you do not have a money issue. That issue doesn't exist. It's an illusion.
So already we're talking about not having a money issue. Already we're talking about that the problem itself doesn't exist. And that's interesting. That the problem itself doesn't exist. That's interesting. As we continue to move through this, click here. As we continue to move through this, you'll see that the guiding philosophy here is that given that we, supreme awareness, given that you or I, supreme awareness, not a person, you or I, you and I, supreme awareness, are creating all things anyway at all times. Given that God is in control, in other words, what we have is in every situation an opportunity to recognize our power. What we have is an opportunity in every situation to recognize our power. And so in that way, problems aren't problems, they're opportunities. So if I say you do not have a money problem, that problem doesn't exist. There is no money issue. That issue doesn't exist. What I'm doing is shifting the focus back from an issue, from a problem, to the internal locus of control, back unto the self. Because that's really what taking spiritual responsibility is. It's shifting that locus of control back unto the self. And so as we're working here, we want to make sure that we're paying attention to the ways in which we often ascribe to a situation or a circumstance that which we have full control over. That is the entire point. I want you to see. That's the entire point of this book. It's what all 250 some odd 260 pages are about. The ability to put back unto the self, your God self, responsibility for every circumstance, every situation. Every circumstance, every situation. This video has been one of those videos where I've gone back and watched it for me, right? I've gone back and watched it and been like, oh man, this is one of those videos that if you're a person who you're running, I mean, anything that you're doing, if you're a person who is independent and you have to build things in order to eat, there's going to come a time, it doesn't matter how big your companies get, there's going to come a time when you would abdicate responsibility to some other thing. If only those investors would invest, if only those clients saw the truth, if only those circumstances had worked differently, then I'd be good. That's a trap. That's a trap. And so as we jump into this go deeper into this conversation here, we're working from that lens, from the lens that because we are consciousness, the supreme all in all, we are responsible for all things that take place in our own lives and everywhere else too. But we could start with our own lives. That doesn't mean that you need to try and make things happen. It doesn't mean that you need to try and solve other people's issues. That's not what taking spiritual responsibility means. It means understanding who you truly are and being able to reason from that perspective. Because if you understand yourself as awareness, as consciousness, as the supreme all in all, you can find a way around any so-called problem, any so-called issue, any so-called circumstance, and turn it into what you would want. That's all consciousness is doing anyway. If you were to throw out your ego, lose your ego, you'd see that all consciousness is doing is creating all the things all the time. Everything, everywhere, all at once. Much like that movie, great movie, by the way, if you've never seen it. Everything, everywhere, all at once. That's the title of the movie, and it's also the title of what I'm saying. Everything, everywhere, all at once is what God is, and that's what God is creating. Everything, everywhere, all at once. Let's continue on here.
For what looks like a shortage of money is only really a shortage of trust, a shortage of divine reliance on the root of existence.
Super important. What looks like a shortage of money is only really a shortage of trust. A shortage of divine reliance. When I say on the root, there we go. There's that language again. Return to your root, on the root of existence. Return to your root. What are we talking about? We're talking about awareness itself. A shortage of divine reliance on the root of existence. That's fascinating. That's fascinating. Somebody, necklace keeps sliding over. All right, we good. That's fascinating. A shortage of divine reliance on the root of existence. If you would just trust God. If you would but just trust God, you would see that you have the power to create the circumstance that is in your best interest, that is toward your highest good, that is toward the highest good of all others. You would see that you have the possibility at every moment to create reality the way you decide. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about being able to step into consciousness as our core identity, what I call core identity in the book. It's our core identity, and from there we begin to act, behave, think, listen, experience the world from that core identity. We are not talking about putting on a belief. It is not the case that we are looking to pretend to be consciousness. It needs to be our experience. It needs to be our experience. That's why in episode 3, we went through that kit that helps us get back to awareness. Once consciousness is our experience, our primary experience of reality, and it already is, but once we can see clearly, we experience clearly that consciousness is our primary experience of reality, all of our powers open up to us. All capabilities open up to us. This is so critical. This is so critical. We want to be able to understand ourselves as that consciousness, because in that is where all the power is. I think about the conversation. I think about the Bible. I think about that scripture that you've heard 1,000 times over. It says, "Ye of little faith." Ye of little faith. What is faith? Faith is trust. It's a belief, a feeling of certainty in a thing that is not yet. It takes faith. I remember I had a pastor one time say, it takes faith to sit down in the chair that you're sitting in and expect it to hold you up. The reality that we believe we are experiencing creates that reality. And this is the This is the divine message I really want to share, because if you know that, then you can transform your relationships. You can transform your life. You can transform your bank account. You can transform all of that. Because what would it mean? It would mean by assuming that a person, for example, a partner, is trustworthy, is kind, is loving, will actually impact the way you communicate with that person and impact how they communicate back to you. You could think of it as, think of a parent raising a child. If that parent treats that child as if they are special, as if they are intelligent, as if they are confident, as if they are worthy, do you think that that child is going to reflect back those very qualities to the parent? Imagine if the parent did not do that. Imagine if the parent treated the child as if they were all the opposite of those things: unworthy, unintelligent, unwise, unsophisticated, unlovable. Two parents. In how many cases do you think the parent that's treating their child as loving and kind is going to get a child that's actually loving and kind versus the parent who's treating their child as if they are unloving and unkind? How many times do you think that the second parent is actually going to get a child who is actually unloving and unkind? You could run this as experiments. What you see, the psychologists talk about this as a self-fulfilling prophecy. That how you treat people tends to be how they show up for you. This is nothing more than the concept of manifestation made bare in clinical psychology, right? Made bare in traditional Western psychology. The difference between what they're saying and what we're saying is that, or what I'm saying is that, traditional Western psychology has no model for consciousness, has no model for God. Whereas transcendent psychology is based on consciousness, is based on God. And so when we treat people as if they are loving and kind, we're not surprised when they show up to be. When we treat circumstances as if there is a solution that is working in our highest good, that is in our highest favor, turns out that there is. One shows up. And when we treat ourselves as if we are worthy, as if we are kind, as if we are loving, it turns out that we show up for ourselves to be that very thing, or those very things. And so let's continue here. I think that was getting after this point of a shortage of trust, a shortage of divine reliance. That's really what's happening when we're blaming a problem instead of taking spiritual responsibility. There's really a sense that we don't trust ourselves. Spiritual responsibility is putting that trust not back into a person, because that is faulty. A person will waver. A person is oscillating back and forth. A person is a little goofy. A person is sometimes right and sometimes wrong. But God is always right. And God is always on time. God is always great. And so we put our faith in that, and it just so happens that the core of God is also the core of us. This is the timeless wisdom. Let's continue.
The ancients understood that human beings could fashion circumstances and environments out of a power source far beyond reason and logic alone.
So here we go again. The ancients understood that we could fashion solutions out of a power source far beyond reason and logic alone. This is why you get people 1,000 years ago or even before saying that, you're talking about the faith of a mustard seed, right? That you can actually move mountains. That's powerful. But it's also why you have sort of Taoist sects that talk about, gaining, and even Buddhist sects that talk about gaining powers as you reach closer and closer toward spiritual enlightenment. The logical mind can only take you so far. It is a wonderful assistant. It is a horrible thing to identify with, to believe that you are the logical mind. This is one of the great issues I take up with Rene Descartes. He's the dude that said, "I think, therefore I am." Putting thought above consciousness is a mistake. And the reason is because thought only has the variables that you can perceive to work with. Logic only has observable variables to work with. Logic nothing we're talking about in terms of faith and manifestation is purely logical. I think I can explain it in a logical fashion, but at some point you're going to have to do some trusting that things that are not here will somehow come here. That simply has to be a component. That's a feature of this process. That's a feature of this process. You could say, well, that's just a different kind of logic. Okay, I like that. What I'm saying, though, is that rationality has to work with a certain set of variables, a certain number of variables. Rationality cannot see the unseen. And what we're talking about here is the unseen, you see. And so the ancients understood that, okay, well, all of reality is a constant manifestation. A constant manifestation. Trillions of realities manifesting all at once. And we can access those, and they're all one. They're all still one reality. They're all still tied to a singular substance. Were we to learn how to access that substance and begin to leverage the technologies of the soul, what could we not do? I highly recommend you go and check out the video that just came out yesterday, where Dr. Umar Johnson is talking about, me and Dr. Umar Johnson are talking about this very thing, talking about how Kemet, the place that people refer to as Egypt, ancient Egypt, relied on this very style of thought in order to build their society. Creating a society in the most impossible place. Every decision, every choice that went into creating ancient Kemet, I think we could question and ask, was every single decision based off of rationality, based off of pure logic, or was it based off of something partially different? This is a way that we want to enter into the conversation. Let's continue on.
Understood that where the logical mind could not deduce an answer, the spiritual mind could effortlessly produce a perfectly tailored solution. Many cultures have called this power by many names. In the West, we call it faith. Faith is simply your ability to consciously create what you want at will. Faith is manifesting or pulling your visions, ideas, thoughts, and feelings into physical form. When you realize that every situation, circumstance, moment of reality is the play of consciousness, your consciousness, you come.
That's a bingo moment. When you realize that every situation, every circumstance, when you realize that every situation, every circumstance is the play of consciousness, the play of your consciousness, then it becomes obvious that every moment is of your creation. So in other words, we're getting to a place where we're saying, hey, you can't not have faith. You can't not manifest. You're already doing it. You're already a master at it. The only question is are you manifesting in alignment with your highest vision? In other words, do you want what you're manifesting? Or are you making something into a problem that really isn't? People making money into a problem. That money is not the problem. It isn't. What of your trust? What of your trust in God? What of your trust in self? The God self, what of it? What of your trust? What ends up happening is that people end up looking not at the trust situation, but end up looking instead at the money situation, as if they haven't created that situation too. You created that situation. You can say, I think every financial advisor on earth would say, hey, there's something that you're doing with your choices. Either you're not creating enough cash flow, you haven't invested in pristine assets, or you have massive expenses. But either way, there's something that you are involved in that is creating that money issue. I'm basically saying the same thing, except I'm not going to blame the cash flow or the lack of pristine assets or the expense ratio. I'm not going to blame that. I'm saying there's something even before all of that has happened that's creating the money issue. What is it? It's your trust. It's your trust. And by the way, this isn't just about money. It's also about relationships. If there is an issue with a child, if there's an issue with a parent, if there's an issue with a friend, if there's an issue with a spouse, whatever the case is, like, that issue had to have happened internally before it manifested externally. In other words, you're creating that situation too. And so what we want to do is make sure that we're placing the attention on the right issue so that we can solve the right issue rather than the issue that we think is right. That's critical. Uh-oh, so hearing somebody saying we got folks in the hold on, let's take a slight hiatus, take a slight break, because I need to find the chat button. Because I know that folks are in the room, but I can't see because I don't have the chat button on my screen. Frankly, if you're just tuning in, today's topic is, what are you creating as a problem that really isn't? Right? What are you making a problem that really isn't a problem? And the reason that question is so important is because all problems are created. All of them. All the issues are manifestations, either to teach a lesson or based on delusion. Let's go with the lesson part, though. That's always kind of the way to reframe problems and say that they're okay. These are opportunities for us to learn. Otherwise, you wouldn't be experiencing it in the first place. Yeah. So what are you making into a problem? And that goes for everybody. I do not make these videos just for another audience, just for you. I don't make these videos just for me. I make these videos for we. for all of us. So if I'm looking at something, if I'm saying something, it's because all of us need to be building a culture where we can have these reminders. One of the phrases that I took from the Christian church, I love this phrase. It's more of you, less of me. More of you, less of me. More of God, less of me. What does that mean? If I say that God and yourself are actually one, then how can I have more of one and less of the other? What I'm saying is, and what I believe the true meaning of that phrase is more of the higher self, more of divine awareness, more of supreme consciousness guiding my decisions, less of my ego and intellect. Less of my ego and intellect. They say the universe is 13.2 or 13.8 billion years old. And consciousness is timeless, so it's, you could say, older than that, but that wouldn't be quite true. It's not. It's out of time. But the intellect isn't. That thing's about 6 million years old, right? So, I mean, at most, in terms of the human intellect that the genus Homo wields, that human beings wield, and that would be back through several iterations of Homo. So not just Homo sapien sapien, but the anatomical modern humans, Homo heidelbergensis, Homo erectus, Homo habilis, and then into the Australopithecines and Ardipithecus. We would go back quite a few, but it's not that old. And yet we are looking to use it in order to make every decision. This is foolishness. And the intellect has to find a problem to solve. And so what happens is, oftentimes you'll create a problem where there isn't one. Where the spiritual mind sees no problem, the intellectual mind has to create one. Has to be given something to work on. No one's intellect is ever at rest. That's an issue. No one's intellect is ever at rest. That's an issue. So let me play and get back into this. And maybe I can find my chat at some point. Let's see how this goes. Maybe this is my check. Yo, here we go. Oh, Alan Lyons in the room. In the room right now. What's happening, Alan? I'm trying to see your message here. Let's see. Okay. Didi in the room right now. Shango in the room right now. What's happening? Oh, yes. I love seeing y'all. Let's see. Live. Let me go live chat here. Yeah. Okay. So can I move this? Oh, there we go. Okay, cool. Cool. So Alan Lyons is saying, I struggle with this. I know it's an illusion, but when I see the bank account dwindling down, I get nervous. Bruh, we've all been there. Especially if, man, listen, I remember when $2,500 used to seem like a lot of money, right? In graduate school, man, we used to get, so I went to grad school, right? And I had like a stipend. So you teach courses and teach classes at the university, and they pay you a stipend. So they waive your tuition fee, so you're not paying anything, and then they give you like 15 grand a year, right? So 15 grand a year. Oh man, I thought that was like something, right? And dude, like, my burn rate every month might be something close to that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like how much you spend in a month is certainly, something like close to that. And so what I'm saying is that even as you get better at making money, if your expenses change with it, you're back to square one. What difference did it make if I was making 15 grand a year, but I made 100, my expenses were only maybe $1,000 a month? Yeah, you're paycheck to paycheck, But if you're in a situation where you make 300,000, 400, 500,000 a year, but your expenses are just 510,000, you're in the worse situation than the dude who was only making the 15 financially, in terms of by the numbers, if you're just going to look at those bank accounts. But if you're paying attention to the person who has more trust in their capacity to find a way, is not getting hung up on negative thoughts about what happens if the money runs out, that person is freeing up more time to explore options for creating the life that they want, for creating the vectors, the models, perhaps the sales funnels, whatever it is, in order to solve and build the life that they actually love. In other words, Alan, I'm saying that by taking a look at that bank account dwindling down and getting all nervous, what ends up happening is you end up making decisions that are in alignment with that nervousness. And so exacerbate the very fear that you made the decision with in the first place. You see how that works? So somebody type yes in the chat if you're feeling me. If you see how that works, that as you sit there and look at that bank account number dwindle down, and you swipe a card at the gas station, you're doing mental calculations in your head about how much money is left over. You sit here doing all that. The very decisions that you'll begin to make will be pregnant with that nervousness, and so will give birth to a nervous situation, a more nerve-wracking situation. Type yes if you understand what I'm saying. It's particularly for Alan. Particularly for Alan. Because Dede saying yes. Alan, what say you, bro? Like, I need you to put that in the chat, because as we continue talking about faith, as we continue talking about manifestation, I need you to understand how the mind works so that you can avoid using it inappropriately. Because in either case, this is the part that took some time to understand. In either case, you're the one that's creating that reality, be it of nervousness or of plenty, be it of fear and scarcity or of abundance and plenty. In a moment, we're going to get into a kit, a conscious transformation technology that's going to allow you to take responsibility over those concepts of scarcity and abundance within yourself, so that you can choose and decide which one you really want. But that is one of the most important things that I can explain to you on tonight in regard to this lesson. Notice that faith, this conversation on faith and manifesting, comes last, right? This is video 5 in the True Freedom series. This is it in terms of the True Freedom series, unless we do it again. But we've now gone through awareness. We understand our 3 powers: consciousness, the Idon mind. Faith is last. Because until people have the ability to say, I don't mind, you're going to end up manifesting more of what you don't want, more of what you do mind. So we don't go out and start trying to manifest appropriately, even though, yes, you're manifesting every situation. What we do is train so that we can manifest from a neutral place, a neutral, calm, clear seeing, so that what we get is actually what we want, rather than an escape from what we want. Because I know people who, dude, I'm telling you, oh, T. Whitney in the building. Welcome in. So T. Whitney up in this baby. Yes. Welcome in. I think it's your first time in here. Welcome in. So I was about to say something. I got so excited about T. Whitney. What was I about to say? I'm about to say something. I know that. Somebody put, what was I about to say? I'm about to say something. I know. Tammy Christine in the building. Yes, sir. Alan. Okay, I'm getting that. Yes, I'm getting that. Yes, I'm getting that. Yes. It's the most important thing that I could share with you in regard to faith is you have this consciousness, and unless you are getting into, remember, that neutral psychological space where you can say I don't mind to what's happening. You might have heard the phrase, if you want to be given everything, give everything up. Right? Jesus talks about give up everything for my sake and you will have life. The Tao Te Ching says literally, if you want to be given everything, learn to give it all up. That's what has to happen before we start trying to manifest. Period. We have to be able to get into that Idan mind. In other words, Alan, I need you to be able to look at your bank account dwindling down in numbers and still be able to say, but I know I am the truth and I am the way. Not Alan Lyons, the person. I would not put all of that pressure on that person. I'm saying the I am that exists within Alan, the I am that Alan understands himself to be. We must train so that, and by train, I mean engage in the practices that allow us to remember our true self so that when the time comes to manifest, we're manifesting from a place of clear seeing. This is what I'm about to say. I just remembered it. Okay, so, I know people who will try and manifest, like people who would take jobs just because it pays 6 figures or high 5 figures. Not anything what they want to do at all. People who want to be artists, they want to be in, celebrity culture. Not in the sense that they want to be a celebrity, but they want to be in journalism, let's say. And I'm thinking of a person in particular. They want to be in journalism, but they would go join the SWAT team. I'm talking about SWAT, the task force, busting in cats' doors and stuff like that. That SWAT stuff, never, not even interested in it, but just because there's an opening. In other words, this person's very fear that they won't be able to achieve their dreams and may become financially destitute is causing them to entertain and accept positions that they don't even want, but that offer temporary relief to their current circumstance and situation. That's not taking responsibility. That's not taking spiritual responsibility. It may be taking personal responsibility. People got to eat. People got to raise their kids. I understand, but it is not taking spiritual responsibility. Because in spiritual responsibility, we decide to live a life of true freedom, which is to say to live a life of love, which is to say to live a life of inner peace and outer prosperity. We decide that. And that outer prosperity is always in alignment with our highest good. And so if your highest good is to be up in the SWAT team, I ain't got no problem. Do you? But if your highest good is something completely different, but you're making choices based off of fear, then you're not going to avoid creating a fearful reality. This is the whole point. This is the whole point. It's one of the things that I absolutely have to. It's one of the things that I absolutely have to share with you tonight. Somebody needs to hear this because people are literally making decisions based on fear that they do not even understand. Right? Because after a while, it can get to a point where you're so driven by fear that it becomes the new normal, and and everybody else in your world is too. And so everybody just goes out for drinks after work. Everybody's at the job because they're afraid. And then everybody stays at the job because they're afraid. And then all those people hang out together afterwards, sharing more messages about fear and what they can't afford and what's going to happen if such and such gets in the office and the whole thing, dude, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Nope. That's why we talk about spiritual responsibility. That's why we talk about spiritual responsibility. Because when we understand that we as consciousness are the driving force, the divining force behind all of reality, well, then we understand that we are manifesting even the fear. We're manifesting even that. It's not an aberration, something that's out of place. No, no, no. You're creating even that, which means that you can create something else in its place. This is the way. It's what the book is about. T. Whitney, I got something for you. This is a proof. It's, the book is about to be out, but I just finished my part, so now I got it off on the editor. I passed it along, but this is one of those things that, as it continues to come out, I have to continue to tell you about it, because having this information, the knowledge of self, I don't really see anything that's more valuable than that. And for people who spent $150,000 on college educations, I happen to know that nowhere in there did they say anything about being able to manifest reality. Nowhere in there did they say anything about being the divine root of all existence at our core. At our core. Nowhere in there. I would have paid $150,000 to know that information. I would have paid that. I would have paid $1 million, 10 million, 100. What? I think we're starting to get into the concept of priceless. This is the information that's truly priceless. I can't wait for this to come out. I can't wait. Because I need you to be able to see exactly what I'm talking about. I love making YouTube videos, but dude, I only made the YouTube videos because I first had this. I wanted to be able to share this in a way that would capture people's attention. Because publishers told us that, they wouldn't publish us or whatever. So we found another way. We found a different publisher. It's about creating reality. And so as you can tell, my personality is proud of the work, but there's something deeper in me that also wants to share it. And so let me get back to T. Whitney saying thank you. Nope, long time subscriber. Right. I remember. I remember when there was like 10 subscribers and you were like, you were in there somewhere, you know what I'm saying? Maybe first 100 or whatever, but I do remember that. Yes. The sane energy circling. Didi, I need you to say that again in a different way. Alan Lyons is saying, I'm thankful for that message. Greatly appreciated. I will apply it. Yeah. Oh, okay, Aditi, are you talking about the Dr. Umar Johnson video that we just put up, the one on Kemet and imagination? I'm hearing Didi saying, because they stopped our imaginations when we were kids and told us imaginations were wrong. Yeah, isn't that weird? How bizarre, right? The one of the conditions, I would say imagination is a condition of faith. It's certainly closely correlated and tied. I mean, ultimately you're going to manifest through feeling. Whatever you feel to be true is what's going to ultimately happen. But your imagination, how many people know, impacts how you feel. If someone asked you to imagine getting a massage, or imagine someone treating you kindly, or someone giving you the best compliment, right? We could take people through imagination experiences where we can literally get them to relax, to calm down, or to elevate their heart rate, to be anxious. Imagination has a direct impact over how we feel. In fact, if you've ever been accused of overthinking before, you're overthinking partially in imagination, right? What if this happens? What if this happens? What if this happens? What if this happens? That's imagination, and it's working you into a stressful frenzy. What we're talking about is being able to utilize that imagination in order to create the reality you actually do want. And so, Didi, I think you're right. The IQ test does not test imagination. It tests whether or not you learn some stuff out of a textbook or from a classroom. And that's a whole other thing. Don't get me started on the IQ test. I think that stuff, the ACT, SAT, man, all that stuff is cap, dude. Like, how can you have a standardized test if you don't have standardized education across the United States or across the world? It's crazy. Anyway, that's a whole thing, but that's, those are the opinions of my personality. It is still a truth. It is a clear observation that imagination is not what's being cultivated in our youth. And so when people grow up, they end up growing up, even if they have a great imagination, sometimes it's often mismanaged, misused. And so people don't know how to bring that imagination into a capacity that serves them. And so that's what we want to be talking about here. And that's what Dr. Umar was talking about the other day. Definitely watch that video after this, though. You know what I'm saying? After this. Alan, so he said, I'm thankful for that, man. Greatly appreciate. I will apply. Okay, excellent, Alan. I want to get through the rest of this talk because what's really happening is I want you to be able to apply the conscious transformation technologies I have for you. And there's even more in the book. I mean, the video is just, I got 5 minutes to change someone's vibration, or 6. But the book is where we go, even deeper. And so when you talk about applying it, I want you to have real tools to apply. Real tools to apply. Okay, Didi, I see what you're saying. You're saying the same energy so Didi just said the same energy circling. Now you're saying the same energy circling means that, the example of hanging out with people at work and all of them being afraid. It's the same energy circling. Roger that. Copy all, right? Like that's exactly right. Like, can you imagine if we had a culture where what I'm talking about was the norm? It was like what we explained to, 7-year-olds when they first got into first grade, or 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds. But by the time you can articulate and understand language, you would already have gotten the message from so many people in your community telepathically, just through feeling, just through the way that people treat you. If that was our global world culture, I mean, this is the vision. If you want to know what I'm about, that's what I'm talking about. A world culture where somebody comes in with that weird energy and it's like, dude, would you stop? Would you quit? Stop it. I'm not even trying to hear it. I'm not trying to hear it. I'm not trying to hear it. Being loving, of course, but also like, look, let's be clear about these here boundaries. Don't come in here with that nonsense. Don't come in here with negativity. I don't care if you can't see a way. What does God see? What does the God I am see? Ooh, what does the God I am? I'm saying the God that is the I am. What does the God I am see? And it also works as, what does the God that I am see? You see that? What is the God that I am see? We're not in here talking about, oh man, I heard they laying off people at the job and this, that, and bruh. Would you stop? Would you quit? Having that as a cultural pattern that nips certain things in the bud, nobody's tripping anymore about whatever, all the things. About all the things. And not only that, but it ends up producing stronger leaders. It ends up producing stronger parents, stronger partners. Man, you want to be around people who are positive, who have something else other to talk about than other people and their foibles, their problems. as an excuse to cover up one's own. If you're in this room right now, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Put yes in the chat if you know what I'm talking about. I already know, but put yes in the chat anyway if you know what I'm talking about. We're talking about building a culture, a new culture, because you're going to need a new culture in order to build a new world. Half the solutions, I mean, you would be surprised at how many things are already solved, but just won't be implemented. Some people know as you're transitioning and deciding, and growing more and more every day, you can see this in institutions that you may belong to, that you may be associated with. Things that are already solved, but nobody wants to implement them because they come with a certain whatever, a certain cost, a certain whatever, a certain problem that people are making that isn't really a problem. Oh, it's going to cost too much money in order to fix that. We don't have enough personnel to fix that. Oh, we can't do that. These are problems that aren't really problems. You're making them into a problem. And that's the point of our discussion today. T. Whitney saying yes. That's the point of our discussion today. What are you making into a problem that really isn't? What are you making into a problem that really isn't? It's not even one. By getting very, very good at answering that question, and by getting good at it, I mean just getting good at the process of bringing awareness into your life so you can take a fresh look at things. To do that with one person is to do that with so many others. That very energy of self-reflection, people can feel it off of you. So they begin to kind of, hold on, what's going on with me? At scale, that can be powerful. With one person, it's powerful. At scale, it's a new human being. It's a new human race. It's a new human race. From institutions, politically, socially, culturally, financially, economically. You cannot name me one sector of life. Religiously, you cannot name me one sector of life that would not be transformed when we bring God into our everyday experience and begin to reason from that core identity, that core experience of living. Alan saying yes, 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 yes. I know y'all understand. I know y'all understand. Let me get back to this. Let me get back into the video right quick.
Come to see that you are creating each experience just like you do in your dreams. In dreams, you easily construct buildings, other people, entire conversations, skies, worlds, animals. You completely forget who you were when you fell asleep. Every single person you meet in a dream feels real to you.
And that's the part. Every single person that you meet in a dream feels real to you. When I was choosing the sort of images for, this video, I really wanted to get that sense of the conversations that you're having. Things that you're experiencing in the dream, you forget who you were. I mean, think about it. Tonight, you go lay down, go to sleep, or you're taking a nap, and maybe if you're watching this at another time, during the day, you're going to forget this conversation even happened. You're going to forget that this whole thing happened. You'll remember it, eventually, but temporarily, for however long you're sleeping in that dream state, and even in the deep sleep, you're not going to be thinking about anything that happened to you today. You'll forget who you are as a person. You'll forget your name every night. And in its place, in the place of Alan, in the place of Dee Dee, in the place of T. Whitney, in the place of Dr. Shawn, in the place of all of us will be something else. The I am is still there. Notice that you're still there. The I am is still there. The great I am is still there, which is why I think that dreams are actually just experiences of other dimensions while we're asleep. Another conversation for a whole other day. But the point is that the I am is there. God is still there. Your capacity for manifesting is still there. How do you know? Because everything inside the dream is made of you. No one on earth would refute that. No one has to go to Lowe's or Home Depot in order to get tools to build the houses that you're going to sleep in when you wake up in the dream, right? That your dream home, the one that you actually experience in your dream, nobody, it feels hard. It feels as real as this experience right now, particularly if you've ever done anything called lucid dreaming, which is where you're awake as yourself in a dream. It's wild. But another conversation for another day. The point is that in the dream, this world that is completely made up out of your mind, you experience. And everything in that dream, you've created. Yeah, you didn't create intellectually. You didn't say, okay, when I go to sleep tonight, I definitely want a house on the hill that's going to sit at a 90-degree angle. And I want my dad, when he was 38, I want him to come through the room. It's not intellectually architected like that. But who here thinks that somebody else is in control of what you dream? Other people may influence, they may say something to you that shows up later in your dream, but you put it there. And so my only question is, why would you think that this experience that you are having right now is any different? Why would you think that this experience that you are having right now is any different? I'm saying eventually you're going to wake up from this dream. What people call, the death experience. Eventually you'll wake up from this dream and be like, oh, it was only a few seconds. You just barely nodded off, right? I mean, it's not to say that consciousness is asleep. Consciousness is wide awake. But what I'm saying is that you're manifesting this situation just as easily as you're manifesting the situation inside of your dreams. What we're talking about, and actually one of the quotes from the book is, let me see if I can grab it. One of the quotes from the book, my teachings are simple. They're designed to do two things. To teach you that you are dreaming, and then to get you to dream well. To teach you that you are dreaming, and then get you to dream well. That's really what we're talking about. It's really a situation of it's a situation of understanding that reality, what we call external phenomenon, is a dream. Now, once we understand that, okay, cool, that's step one of enlightenment. The second part is, let's now direct our dream in the direction of our highest vision and the direction of our highest good, knowing that that highest good is also to the highest good of others, knowing that that love that I share with someone else is the love that I receive, because everyone else is me. Every single person in your dream is an aspect of you. They're all made of you. Everything in that environment is made of you. I'm saying the same thing is true right now. If you go in a dream and say, hey man, go in a dream and shake somebody and say, hey, are you real? Of course they're going to say, yeah, I'm real. Yeah, I'm real. Just as we all would, and they would be real. But just as if you went and shook somebody, and say, hey, look, are you real? People are going to say, yes, they're real. And they are real. Everyone's still made of the eternally real in their essence. And so when I say that you are God alone, what I'm talking about is that there's nobody else here. The you that can hear these words is the same you that is saying them. This is not solipsism. You might be familiar with the philosophical paradigm of solipsism. If you're not familiar, you can Google this, but I'll explain it in 2 seconds. I might need 4. The idea that your mind is the only one that there is and everybody else's mind is false. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying there's only one mind of which all of us are a part of it. There's only one dreamer dreaming themselves as trillions and trillions and trillions of people from trillions and trillions and trillions of perspectives. There's not trillions of people, but trillions of perspectives across the universe. There's only one dreamer. You've seen yourself experience multiple dreams in a single night. It's like that, except atemporally, right? Outside of time, all at once. Everything, everywhere, all at once. So yeah, I got to go back to that question. What are you making a problem again? Because in the dream, when you're getting chased by somebody, it's a nightmare, and it's, oh man, you're making that a problem. Not only are you making it a problem by the way you're creating meaning around the situation, but literally you have created that dream scenario. You've created that problem. Somebody say yes if you're understanding what I'm saying. I hope I'm not losing anyone here. That the fabric of reality doesn't change just because you take a nap. What is true in the waking world is also true in the dream world. If you can see that, if you can understand that, which is why I put it in the video. If you can really vibe with that, then you understand. Then you understand. All right. Let's get back into this. Okay, Tammy Christine is saying, yes, preach. We hear you preach. Thank you for joining in. Thank you for joining in. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that we have to come back to this understanding if we are to be effective spiritually, if we are to take spiritual responsibility for our reality. You can't tell somebody to take spiritual responsibility for their reality if they think they're just a person. If I meet somebody who thinks that they're just a person who is of a certain age, 50 years old or 30 or whatever, 40 years old, whatever it is, if I meet that person, they haven't done the prerequisite work for me to say that they are spiritually responsible for their reality. I might be able to say they're personally responsible. I can make that argument, but that's an argument that's kind of boring to me. Although, I mean, the people who are at that stage need that. People who are on spiritual Gerber, they need to eat the Gerber. Right? A baby who's just born can't have they got to eat what babies eat until they're strong enough to eat something different. That's not being pejorative. That's not being, elitist. That's being real. You have to meet people where they are. And so if you're in the room here, we're talking about the highest level here. We're talking about the highest level here. We're talking about the highest level here. And so that's one of the things that we have to get very, very clear on is what is the nature of reality? And whatever it is, we put ourselves in alignment with that. What is the nature of things? The baseline. What is the root of it? And when we do that, we ask that question, and we do enough of our investigation, we discover that there's only one thing. There's only one thing. Let me continue here.
All those people, all those places, all those things are only made up of your consciousness. They are your manifestations. They are only you. The same is true for the moment that you're experiencing right now. You are creating this very moment right now, including the words in this video and the pictures on your screen. Once you understand this, creating success is just as easy as creating failure. Creating the life situation you want is just as easy as creating your next breath. Learn to see everything as if you are the one creating it.
Because that's what spiritual responsibility is. Learn to see everything as if you are the one creating it. Again, not you as a person. Not you as a person, but you as supreme awareness, as supreme consciousness. Not you as a person. You as a person is actually a creation as well of you. It's a creation as well of you. You as a person is also your creation. You also did that. Just as in a dream, you've also recast and replanted. You've also recast yourself in a new role, in a new body sometimes. I've had dreams where I was a person of a whole different... I've had dreams where I was an alien, right? You have dreams. And we all expect that. Like, I would be surprised if no one ever had a dream of themselves as an alien past a certain point. Yeah, it's a dream, man. Most people say it's just a dream. It's like, no, it's also a window into a foundational process of reality. It's also a window. And so what we want to be doing is making sure that we're putting ourselves into alignment with that reality, basing our worldview off of that. There isn't any other truth anyway, right? To pick a lesser philosophy. Let's say you say, okay, I'm gonna go with the global culture. I'm gonna go with what they're saying globally. That there's 8 billion people, and the best thing that you can do is create a legacy for the future, and build the generational wealth. And I mean, if you're even talking like that, maybe get some power and control how other people are doing things. That's were that possibility 100% true, and there was nothing else, then it would be foolish to be talking the way that we're talking. But because any other talk outside of that would be delusion by definition. Because all there would actually be would be that truth. But what I'm saying is that because we understand that there's a higher reality, you can't prove to me that there's actually people. Because in order to know people, I need to first be aware. In order to know people, I need to first be aware. So awareness is primary in my experience before you can even tell me about anything called a person. So I need to investigate the nature of that which is primary in my experience. It alone is the basis for my reality. It alone is the basis for my reality. Let's investigate that first. Where is the science of consciousness? Let's investigate that first. I find it odd that the psychiatrists and psychologists have never found consciousness in the brain. Crazy to me. That's crazy. And it just seems to be one of those, oh, okay, we'll just continue on. No need to know what that is. No need to investigate further. I'm saying, no, let's investigate further. And once we do, we discover that it was the most important thing to understand. It was the most important thing to understand. Let me get back into this.
Then you will realize that your manifestation talents, your gifts for producing reality the way you want, are already superb.
If you haven't liked, shared, subscribed, to this channel, to this video, or like the video, subscribe to the channel, please do so now.
Like a king or queen, you are directing everything that happens in your kingdom. You do not have a money problem. Therefore, it makes no sense to work a job that isn't helping you build skills to serve your life purpose.
And there we gotta talk. I'm telling you, it doesn't make that line was packed with a few things. I was kind of signaling in a certain kind of way to a particular group of people, particularly those who feel like they're working at a job in order to survive. That's not taking spiritual responsibility. How can we be talking about you creating reality, you deciding your experience of reality, and then say that you have to go take a job in order to survive? If we start from the premise that you are creating everything in your reality, including that job and including the need to have to survive, that's different. New options open up. And now you have new choices. Do you want to continue down that road, or do you want to create something else? If you're going to work a job, this was the part, being a scholar, being an academic, publishing papers, doing research projects. I've done research projects from Chicago to Africa, and I loved it. I loved that. I loved it. And so I was able to stay in that institution for a long time without necessarily needing to think about it. As long as I had my books and my stuff, I was good. Until it became obvious that I wasn't going to be anymore, that somehow the university was out of alignment. And so the decision to go into sales, into technology sales, I went because, not because I wanted a job, but because I wanted to build skills. I knew one day I need to be on here doing this with you. And so I wanted the skills to be able to do this well. I wanted the skills to be able to do this well. That's a reason to take a job. That's using the job in order to serve you, not the other way around. Not just going in and putting off your higher purpose just so that you can survive. What's the point? What's the point? Can somebody explain to me what the point of that would be? What's the point? What's the point? I can't understand the point of that. My whole dissertation is about dissertation, just, the final project that you do for your PhD. It's like 300, 400 pages, whatever. The final project had to do so much. So I don't even, that's a whole other thing. That could be a whole other channel. But it had to do so much with the nature of labor. What is labor? If you are familiar with philosophy, you'll know that there was a philosopher named Bertrand Russell. He argued that every society has to decide which people are going to be the ruling elite and make the decisions, and which people are going to be the laboring class and execute those decisions. And so everything inside of a society is built out and based on making sure that the next generation gets selected to go either into the elite class or into the laboring class. This is an oversimplification, but the point still stands that every society, from the way that public schools are designed differently from the elite private schools, to the way public universities or job training roles are designed, as opposed to the elite private institutions of like a Harvard or Yale, you understand? The way families are allowed to flourish in certain communities as opposed to others, when people will utilize drugs in order to destabilize certain community, right? Like all these things have a role in societies. All these things have a role in societies. When, I think it was Britain, or one of the European bodies was pumping opioids into China, in a place called, in an era of history that the Chinese still refer to as, like the Great Humiliation, where in order to force trade routes to open up, they were pumping drugs into these communities in China, so that it would destabilize the region and so make certain economic choices more plausible in terms of trade relations. Well, that sort of thing happens internally inside of societies too. The point is that when people are moving based on fear, all of a sudden it's a good idea to try and destabilize somebody else, to try and harm someone else. And the current world culture right now is based off of just being on the winning end of that, being on the winning end of that exchange. Kill or be killed, right? You want to be the one doing the killing, right? That's kind of how this is shaping up. And when it comes to the labor market, why am I saying all this? It's because if you know that a society is looking to turn the majority of people into laborers, not because that's what's for their highest good, but because that's all they know how to do. That's the only way that the project of civilization has been blueprinted. I'm saying the very project that we call civilization has been templated, is with this model, according to, someone like a Bertrand Russell. What I'm saying is that by taking spiritual responsibility, that doesn't matter. You decide where and what you do. You decide how to utilize your labor such that you can achieve your highest good for yourself and for others, for your community and for others. The difference between just being a common laborer, or I should say an employee, versus being free, is the love for what you're doing and its alignment with your higher purpose. So I don't mind you going and grabbing a job if it's going to build higher skills for you to execute your higher purpose. I do have an issue. I would take issue if you were doing it just to survive, because that's the plan that somebody else made for you. That's the point. That's the plan somebody else made for you. That's the point. That's the plan somebody else made for you. And so what we're talking about now is taking responsibility for that, because the people who made those plans, they were just afraid. They were just scared. They just didn't know. They weren't in touch with the truth of existence. They needed better leaders. And I'm saying you can be that leader through your example. I'm not saying don't work. I'm saying do the work that you came here to do, that you were born to do, that you love to do, because it's all the same. The work that you came to do, that you were born to do, is the work that you love to do. Even if you're not very good at it yet, it's the work that you were born to do. That's what the world needs. Even the people who would try and control you, even the so-called elite, at their core and their heart of hearts, they want you to do what you came to do too. They don't even know it yet. Intellectually, they don't know it, but their God self knows it. We're not here to create enemies out of people, but to realize that when we step into God consciousness, when we step into spiritual responsibility, the enemies outside disappear, because there's no longer any enemies on the inside. We're not fighting ourselves. No need to fight somebody else. I'm saying we're not fighting ourselves. There's no need to fight somebody else. Not fighting ourselves, no need to fight somebody else. Please put a 100 in the chat. Just put 100 in the chat if you get this. Put 99 if you don't. You know what I'm saying? If you're not quite feeling it, you're not quite understanding, then let me go a little deeper on it, because it's critical that we understand this. Okay, so me, so I thought this was me for a minute. I was like, hold on, did I put this in here? So me is the person's username, is saying, when you take responsibility, you also help serve the world in what it needs. Through this, money, love also comes in. I would, yeah, I mean, 100%. I would say that taking that spiritual responsibility, it serves the world, because it in and of itself is the act of love that the world needs. It is the act of love that the world needs. And from that fertile understanding, everything that you need, including the money, the funds, the people, they come to you. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Didi's saying, this is good, Dr. Shawn. Right on. Right on, Didi. Didi's saying 100. I think he put a 100. Okay, those are 100. But on my end, it's coming up. I can see the 100 though, so I know me is in. Tammy Christine is saying 100. That's all we're trying to do, is just keep it 100. Keep it 100. Reason being is that after doing a deep reading, I mean, I'm talking about years, y'all, of being in libraries and and combing through history and combing through everything from political science to, linguistics to cultural anthropology to history to all the wonderful literature that exists across different cultures. The image I see of humans are, it comes back to this thing that I'm talking about, which is the project of civilization. When I say that, I mean, human beings didn't always live in cities. In order to live in cities, you need farming. But what's so cold is that, think about it. The farming, you have to be able to feed a population before you can do anything else with that population. So the farming is critical. I think everybody kind of gets that part. You don't get Egypt unless you have the Nile, because there wouldn't be the farming necessary in order to feed the people to do anything else. You know what I'm saying? There would be no workers because nobody could eat. But what do we call farmers in our society? For those who are English speakers in particular, and this goes back to feudal Europe. I don't want to get so deep into all of this. You know what I'm saying? This is where I nerd out, because I do dig this, but I understand that, you know what I'm saying, everybody isn't quite the same. But what I'm saying is that, what do we call farmers? What's a word for farmers? Another word for farmers. The most important function of any civilization. What do we call them? Somebody put in the chat, what's like another name for farmer that you can think of? Because once I understood this, it like everything else kind of became super clear. Me saying a laborer, yeah, I mean, you know where I'm going with it. That's basically where I'm going with it. But laborer is kind of a general term, which can mean like construction labor. You dig what I'm saying? Like, so, but I'm meaning something a little bit more specific, and that word is peasant. Is peasant. Like a peasantry. The peasantry is just another name for farming, for farmers. Peasant. I remember I was doing research in Africa, in Tanzania, and I was like in like this rural, Didi saying agriculturalist. That's sweet. Yes. That's what, yes. That's a term that's also used. But generally speaking, if you look across time, and particularly back into feudal Europe, but you even know it now, you know the word peasant. When someone describes somebody as a peasant, they're kind of saying that person is beneath them. When I went to Africa, I was in Tanzania, in a place called the Bequia. I was doing work on like nonprofits and stuff. Anyway, the one I remember being interviewing people like straight out in these, villages that, I mean, it was pretty, it was like, how can I say this? Like hut structures, right? That were just scattered throughout this area called the Bequia. I would go and interview these people, and when I would ask them what they did for a living, the translator would say peasantry. And I was like, man, he shouldn't be referring to himself as a peasant. And then I like looked into the word and I was like, oh, it actually just means farming. Like, that's what it means. But in the culture that all of us grew up in, for the most part, if you're, United States or United States adjacent, tied with any of, English or any of this, the peasants, to say somebody's a peasant is to say that they're beneath you, is to say that they're lower than you somehow. But we also know that without farmers, there would be no civilization. It is the most practical, important function of any civilization. If you can't feed the people, you can't have the people, period. And so even before armies, even before militaries, it's more important than that, because you don't get to a military if you can't feed anybody, you dig? And so the reason I'm saying that is because there is a stark contrast between the value that a person really has in our society and the value that society will communicate to that person. Super important. There is a stark contrast between the value that a person really has and the value that culture will communicate to that person. If farmers were paid what they were, the value that they are to civilization, I mean, farming would be as lucrative as the NBA, right? Like, I mean, it would be ridiculous. But again, going back to Bertrand Russell, every society is looking to turn people into laborers or into elite citizens, right? Into a ruling class or a laboring class. And even though the laboring class has significant, it's not possible. Nothing is possible without that group. You also have a management class, a class that has to be able to dictate and decide what people are going to do. And I'm saying that if you know that is the framework that civilizations are built upon, today, I do believe that there will be a new race of people who will be able to see things in a new way and do things in a different way. But as of today, we got the people that we got who are at the level of development that they're at. Those people will lie about your value in order to maintain the system that's in place. And so, thinking about even just language, this was a little bit of a tangent, but the point is that if you know that about the framework that other people are, that a society is looking to push onto a group of people, then the imperative to take spiritual responsibility for your world, it's brought into sharp relief. The world needs a new example, and I'm saying you can be that. Let me continue here.
Just to put food on the table, just to survive. Your problem was never money. Don't wait another 10, 20, or 30 years to find out what I'm saying is true. And the reason you do not have a money problem is because you do not have a problem at all. You have an opportunity to learn, to create what you want, to dive deeper in faith, your celestial power.
And that's how I want you to start thinking about this. It's not about a problem. It's about you have a situation that's working for you. It's showing you a way to dive deeper in faith. Every single thing, even this idea about civilization being, somehow wanting to control people. Okay, what a beautiful opportunity we have to build a culture that can show the world another way. That's why I'm saying we're not creating enemies in here. We're not here to say that somebody's wrong for doing X, Y, and Z. I just don't want to waste any time with that. I do want to put you on notice that this is what's going on, but I don't want to waste any time trying to turn a group of people into an enemy. Because we understand that the spiritual calculus of the matter is that whoever they are, we are also. And so when we can resolve these issues internally, we resolve them externally. And I'm saying, let's build a world culture. Let's build a culture. So it can be a small culture at first that spreads, but having a culture where people are spiritually responsible and allowing that culture to spread, allowing that love to spread. Because we're not saying that somebody needs to be over here controlling you. That doesn't mean we can't work in teams. It doesn't mean that people can't, work together and coordinate and have management teams and that sort of thing and have leadership and it means that we're not taking on those roles as our primary identity. It means that we're not taking on those roles as our primary identity. Say it one more time. It means that we're not taking on those roles as our primary identity. Right now, in any society, the elites know who they are. And they will tell you, hey, look, I come from this family. I do this. We do this. This is what we do. My great grandfather did this. We own this many people. Like, you know what I'm saying? The cats will tell you. They'll have the family brands on. People will tell you there is an identification with the role. Same thing that you'll see with people who are economically disenfranchised. You'll see people saying that there is an over-identification with the story of where folks come from, what block they grew up on, right? All of this. It's the same psychosis played out across different economic demographics. What I'm saying is, rather than identify as a person with these separate stories, we can understand that roles are necessary without losing sight of our true identity as consciousness, of our true identity as awareness, which is peace, which is happiness, which is bliss, and our capacity to create a corresponding reality of peace, of happiness, of bliss. Somebody put 100 in the chat if you understand what I'm saying. I'm saying don't get lost in the role of yourself as a farmer. You're not identifying with that any more than you're identifying with yourself as an elite or as a very wealthy person. You're identified as consciousness, and from there you create every circumstance that's in alignment with love, that's in alignment with your true freedom, that's in alignment with your true freedom. Which means that if you are a person who, V's in the room, Christy Battellini's in the room. All right, let me finish this real quick. It also means, I'm about to lose the thought. It also means that if you are a person right now who is wanting to leave the job, you don't want to be a farmer anymore. You don't want to be a peasant anymore. Not to say that I'm not, I don't mean peasant in the pejorative sense. I mean in the sense that, I originally introduced the concept for the conversation. You don't want to be a farmer anymore. Because you're not overly identified with that role, you leave. Right there and then. 2 weeks. You put a 2 weeks in, I guess, if you want. I don't know if people do that, but you know what I'm saying? Like, you can, I guess, do it, or just leave. Because you're not overly identified with the role, number one, you can leave it. And number two, you can create something that is better, that is in alignment with your love, with what you really want. That's so important because it gets to the very first, if you remember the very first episode of the True Freedom series, the very end card, where I put the quote from the book on there. The quote is, True freedom is a decision, not a circumstance. It's also not a role. It's also not a role. There isn't, I'm not trying to hear, oh man, well, I would leave, but you know what I'm saying? I gotta, we got bills next month. Everybody got bills, bro. Everybody got bills, bro. You can get those satisfied. You can create what you need in order to satisfy those bills. And not only that, not only those bills, but to actually move into a different reality that you do want to be a part of. Move into a different reality that you do want to be a part of. To create the reality that you do want. So, Alan's saying 100, V saying 100. What's going on, V? Christy Battellini. Christy, I haven't seen you in a little bit. Welcome back in. Christy's saying 100. And V, okay, I love this, V. I love your comments here. She's saying, V saying, aligning with truth of who I am really helps shed the identification with the human roles. Good to have you here, Christy. Christy's saying, good to be here. I'm saying, good to have you here, Christy. But V, you're right. Aligning with truth of who I am really helps shed the identification with the human roles. That's right. Which means that you can change out of these different roles. I'm not saying, let's assume that Bertrand Russell, or for people who are just coming in, Bertrand Russell is the philosopher who says that every society has to determine who's going to be the ruling class and who's going to be the laboring class, who's going to execute the decisions that the ruling class decides to make people execute. Let's assume that is germane to the very project of civilization, that there was no other way. Okay. I don't have a problem with that. The issue happens when we begin to identify with the roles and so begin to fight and kill in order to protect those roles, right? And you're fighting and killing instead of innovating, instead of doing all of the creating that you really want in the first place. It's a ginormous distraction. It's an incredible, inefficient use of time. It's a waste. However, by coming back to this understanding of ourselves as consciousness, we interface with reality differently. We interface with each other differently, and which means that we can create new opportunities and new solutions. Let me get back into this.
I offer you this kit, this conscious transformation technology. I call it the abundant.
Okay. Also, the kit, the conscious transformation technology. What are these? These are technologies we can use in order to bring ourselves back into alignment with consciousness, back into alignment with peace, so that we can create from that place of inner understanding, so that we can manifest in our outer world that which reflects what is so peaceful, happy, and joyful within our inner world. That's what the conscious transformation technologies are. That's what the technologies are. And so they look like, in this case, this is going to look like an affirmation. I'm going to play this. I think I'm going to play this the whole way through. Just to the affirmation part, then we'll see if we can check in right after. But this is, Alan, this is the place where I really want you, this is the application part. The other part was more of the, sort of the theoretical, or the, hey, look, this is how the concept works. But this part is the part where you're going to build your skill. Because when you can create the feeling, we have to understand that feeling guides the mind. When we can create feeling that is in alignment with our highest good, with our highest abundance, with prosperity, with outer freedom, it becomes so much easier to think of the ideas, or to receive the ideas that are going to help us get there. And so let me go ahead and play this here.
Affirmation. we know that words have psychological power. Great affirmations do nothing but direct your mind toward that which you want rather than that which you're afraid of.
Okay, so we got to talk about that real quick. So that's the point of an affirmation. Even in clinical psychology, I was actually having Dr. Umar Johnson, I was asking him about this. He was saying, and he's a clinical psychologist, he was saying how they use the affirmation in psychology. Like if you go to traditional therapy, they'll use affirmations in order to basically direct the mind. And so that's exactly what I'm saying here. What we're doing is directing the mind toward that which we want rather than anything else. Rather than anything else. In so doing, we are able to we are able to summon the feelings that resonate with what we're focusing on. You notice that what you focus on, you basically get. What you focus on, you get. You know that if you focus on sad things, you're going to start to feel sad. Your day is going to start to bend down. You focus on, violent things. You're listening to a lot of that, today's hip hop. I don't even call it hip hop. Today's rap that is commercial. Man, you're going to reflect the ideas that are being reflected in that music, that are being expressed in that music. Noriega talked about that. He was tired of people getting shot at his concerts. He was rapping all that gangster, you know what I'm saying? But was tired of people, breaking out and fighting at the concerts. And so he always admired the R&B people because, everyone who showed up was, about love, and people were sitting in their seats or whatever. There's a different type of energy. And I don't know if Nori ever said this out loud, but there's the understanding that if it's not the sense that just the rowdy people love coming to the concert of Noriega. It's the fact that the music itself, yes, it calls forth the audience that's most likely to get rowdy because the music is rowdy. The music is about that rowdy action. But also, the music is calling out that sense within people. There's a reason that people work out to certain types of music. There's certain music that makes you want to get going, right? The very feeling engenders the sort of behaviors and actions that correspond with that feeling. We have to take super responsibility over feeling. Super responsibility over feeling. The way to do that is affirmations help you do that. They're just one way, but they help you do that because they're directing your focus. If I go to a Noriega concert, I'm not getting a whole bunch of music to focus on that's about love. I'm getting a whole bunch of music to focus on that's about that rowdy action. So guess what I'm going to do? That rowdy action, you understand? If I go to a Yanni concert, I don't want to use Yanni. Let me use, I'll use Angie Stone. I just saw an interview with her. If I go to an Angie Stone concert, I know I'm going to get something different. I know the focus is going to be different there. If Miles Davis was alive, if I go to a Miles Davis concert, I know the focus is going to be different there. Therefore, the feeling that I get as a result of that focus is going to be different, and therefore, the subsequent reactions and behaviors that I feel called to do are also going to be different. We want to take responsibility even over that process in our own minds. Affirmations help us do that. Let's continue. Up Diddy saying what you focus on, you get 100%.
But this affirmation will go a step further. It will allow you to recognize the wealth that already exists in your world, and so allow you to create much more of it. Here it is. Enter a quiet room or find a place alone. Get into that.
Okay, one more thing. So the affirmation here is allowing you to explore the wealth that's already in your world. In other words, we're not using affirmations to just conjure up a new reality. We're using affirmations to understand the reality that is already present. And because what we focus on is what we get, when we focus on the beauty, when we focus on the wealth, when we focus on the prosperity that already exists for us, we call it forward into our experience even more. You dig what I'm saying? And so it would be the difference between you know, a person who is looking at their bank account and there's only $10,000 in there, but they're looking at it and they're saying, oh, wow, there's $10,000. I can use it to purchase these assets that I can leverage in my business and create and basically double this money next month. Versus the person that's saying, oh man, there's only $10,000 left. Eventually this is going to run out by the end of the month because my burn rate is 15. Those are the same situation, but a different articulation and thought of that situation, which means that there's a different focus, which means there's a different feeling, which means there's a different set of possible and plausible actions that are likely. Same situation, but the idea here is that we want to be able, in the first situation, the person is looking at the positive possibility of that 10K. In the second situation, that person is just looking at money draining out of the account. Same situation, but by putting the focus on the positive, you can coordinate your logic, you can coordinate your ideas to produce that which you want rather than that which you're afraid of. It's the same thing at a deeper level. Well, we'll stay at that level right now. Let's just stay right there right now. And then we'll go deeper later. Here we go.
The I don't mind, that neutral psychological space where you can say, I don't mind to what's happening and mean it. Click the video on the screen if you need help with that. Now, repeat aloud to yourself this simple word, abundance. As you do, look upon your entire environment, your room, your home, your car, your clothes, other people, their smiles, and continue to speak abundance. Can you sense how the air you breathe, the sun in the world, the planet's gravity, the warmth of the people you love are tied to abundance? There's so much abundance. It is yours. As you repeat, sense your tremendous value. You who would still dream in color even though blind.
Okay. You who would still dream in color even though blind. That abundance piece, I'm going to say it. I think I say it 11 times because that's what I want you to do, is to say abundance 11 times throughout the day. And as you do, you're looking in, you're soaking abundance in. In other words, you're not just closing your eyes and saying abundance, abundance, abundance. You're open to your full experience and saying abundance, 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 abundance. Oh my God. There's so much. There's so much. I mean, as I'm saying it just now, I'm like, oh man, this ability to speak is an abundant resource, because that means that I can get people to see my perspective. And if I can get you to see my perspective, then right, we can work together. And if we can work together, that means we can build something together. And if we can build together, that means we can prosper together. You dig what I'm saying? That becomes an abundant asset. I'm just talking. Abundance. You see, what we're doing is, in a way, taking inventory of all the abundance that already exists, even as we prime the mind to explore and find more. Because what you focus on is what you get. So you focus on abundance and wow, you find more of it. You find that there's more of it. There's more of it. Abundance. Super critical. You who would still dream in color even though blind. If you lost your vision and you went to sleep, you would still open up to that new world. In other words, you would still be creating that reality in your dreams, just as you're doing right now. So that capacity to see beyond sight would still be with you. Abundance. If all of this power, abundance, why not make our decisions from that perspective, abundance? You see, somebody put 100 in the chat if you understand what I'm saying. I'm over here like, oh man, it's all kinds of incredible. Abundance. Let's get back. Yeah, Dee Dee's saying it is 11 times. That's right. I wanted to make sure that the video itself was a solution, so that if you ever just come back and watch the video, you don't want to do the exercise, but you just watch the video that will have the exercise in it. You dig what I'm saying? I wanted to have the exercise in it just cuz I wanted to model for people what the exercise actually is, so that in real time we could change their vibration. Tammy's saying 100. Christy's saying 100. Me saying 100. Me, I'm gonna need you to explain that. I don't know what 100 means. Oh, yeah, okay. He says 100. I get you. Yes. I'm looking forward to the book, Tammy. Thank you. It's coming soon. Oh yeah, Christy. I'm with you, Christy. I'm over here laughing. 100. I was like, I don't know what 100 means. 100. It's very cute.
What if the entire world belonged to you? What could you do with all of your abundance? Your talents beckon you. All the materials that...
Okay. What could you do if the entire world belonged to you? Super important. Super important. It does. It does. There was a Indian sage by the name of Maharishi who basically had this entire ashram, or what you could say like a live-in church, built around him while he just like sat and basically ate bonbons. The guy was so spiritually enlightened that he needed to do so little in order to have everything that he needed and everything that he wanted built for him. And we're still talking about Maharishi. I think Steve, certainly Ram Dass would have studied with Maharishi. I think Steve Jobs would have. I think Steve Jobs did as well before he started Apple. I mean, this dude was, you should look like he's, I think Kareem Noli Baba, you should just be able to type in Maharishi. Anyway, he used to say that, all the world's money belongs to me. We can get everything that we need all day long. How could he say that with such confidence? Because he understood himself not as the dude that was always just eating the bonbons. He understood himself as the dude that was supreme awareness, that was supreme consciousness. And I'm saying that each of us is that. And there's not an each of us. There's only that. Dreaming itself as each of us, right? As individual bodies. When I say us, there's only that one. So the entire world does belong to you, not just the world, the universe, not just the universe, the multiverse, not just the multiverse, but the trillions of them that exist across trillions of realities, constantly bending and folding into one another. All those. The Tao Te Ching says that the Tao is so big. Tao is just another word for supreme consciousness. That the Tao is so big it contains uncountable galaxies, and yet not even a single electron or a single particle, I think, as the book says, escapes its eyesight. So from the smallest quantum universe to the largest of the largest, I am. You see, I am is. The I am is. Let's get back into this. Oh, and then V is saying the I am. That's right, Alan. The I am. That's right. V is saying there's a book called Life and Teachings of the Masters from Far East, full of such examples. Okay, let me check that one out. I'm about to just put this in my, because I don't just, I read, you know what I'm saying? And so, the Life and Teachings of the Masters from the Far East. I'm always looking to get me a new. Okay, cool. Yeah, so it looks like it's about ascended masters. It says the ascended masters once lived on earth as normal human beings, but have learned their karmic lessons and raised. And I'm just like on Amazon, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, thank you, V, for that. I want to check that out. Thank you for making that suggestion.
that exist for you to build your vision with abundance. See the applications. All the people that exist that you can help with abundance. See their faces. All the places that exist where you can play in abundance. Can you sense how there's always more? Notice how your vibration just raised. Faith attracts to you more of that which you feel. Faith attracts to you more of that which you feel. Faith attracts to you more of that which you feel. Feel abundance. It's already there. Repeat this single word affirmation 11 times per day, every day for the next 2 weeks. But most importantly, come back to this feeling every day and take note of what begins to show up in your life. Take note of any unforeseen appearances and higher changes in your circumstances. Write them down in a journal. That evidence will serve as your proof that when your spiritual world changes, your outer world must as well.
I highly recommend that. I highly recommend just write something down. Keep a note card. It don't have to be a journal. Just keep a note card and just write down what happens as you repeat these things. Abundance, 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 abundance. Last month, I think, I needed an extra 20K and it just appeared. I'm writing that down. Not only am I writing it down, I'm telling y'all about it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it's 20K. You know what I'm saying? Like, again, if your burn rate is so high, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it don't, but at the same time, like, what are we talking about? Like, your ability to create what you need and to create what you want, you get better and better at it as you go. I was just talking about this last night with my lady Felicity, who I think is in the room. Hey Felicity. But we were just talking about how the entire journey of consciousness is to remember who you are. Every single new skill that you get. If you learn how to fly one day, right? If you, like I'm saying, with a body, learn how to levitate off the ground, it would have been a possibility that was always already there. And basically what you're doing is just remembering it. I'm convinced that as you develop in spiritual mastery, you step into more and more levels, higher and higher levels of capability, but they were already there and you've already used them so many times before. But the human experience is basically a forgetting so that you can remember who you are again. That's what we're talking about here. Remembering who you are again. And so recovering all of those abilities over and over and over again. Not over and over and over again in the sense of, when I say that, I mean you're recovering your capacity to create reality the way that is in alignment with your highest love. Period. So if that's 20K, if that's 100K, if that's 150K, I'll let y'all know when it starts getting to the millions and 2 million a month, you know what I'm saying? Like, but whatever it is, you're just remembering a certain part of yourself for the first time again. Right, like it's difficult to speak about this in temporal time and human time in linear terms, but you're just stepping into and uncovering one of your other talents, one of the other things that you could always do. Right, we have to realize that God is infinitely talented, like all the talents God has, all of them. Whether you get enough time to express those talents in a single human lifetime is not the point. The point is that potentiality is always there. And the point of the human lifetime is to create from that epicenter of love your highest purpose, your highest happiness. If I needed to shorten that, then I would say that the point of human life is to love. If you did that, you were good. And that brings us back. Yep, V saying 100, and she's saying A Course in Miracles says that you may think you have many problems, but the only problem is your separation from God consciousness, from God/consciousness, which, if you've been on the channel, we've been watching the videos that we've been uploading the last few weeks, God consciousness with no slash, just God consciousness has been one of the features given one of the speakers I've been working with, which is Dr. Umar Johnson. And so you do have the entire world as yours. Make sure as you do this exercise 11 times per day over the next 2 weeks, if this is your first time, doing an exercise like this, just make note. Just make note. Because I think I've got, there's so many times where it's 20K, another time 50K. Obviously, I was telling you about the time of, 100K, 150K in a month. You know what I'm saying? Like, and we're academics, dude. Like we're dudes that we were happy with the 15. You know what I'm saying? And so to us, those numbers, I know some people probably watching or who will watch will be like, you know what I'm saying? He's still only at the 100, 150. You know what I'm saying? Like, to us, realize that to us at that time, to me at that time, that was 10x what I made in a year. It's not the money, y'all. It's not the cash. It's the capacity to create and understand that your needs will be provided you take spiritual responsibility. That was my thing. Provided I take spiritual responsibility. That was my thing. I tell this story in the book. I won't go into it here, but that's the whole thing. You're rediscovering yourself. Dee Dee's saying, yes, rediscovering myself is what it feels like. Amazing. And that's what it is. That's what it is. Rediscovering your capital S self. Your capital S self. That's what it is. That's what it is. I can't say what else it is, but that's what it is. It may be other things as well, but that's what it is for sure. It's definitely that. And so let's go ahead and get this finished up here.
This is taking spiritual responsibility for what you create.
Okay. Definitely like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. And yeah, this is how this faith, by the way, just to wrap it up, is taking spiritual responsibility. When you step into your power, you're manifesting already. You have no choice but to, whether you have a job you hate or a job you love, work you hate or work you love, you're manifesting both of them right now. You're manifesting both of them right now. The point is to take spiritual responsibility so that you're manifesting what you actually want. You're taking responsibility for manifesting the reality, the environment that you want. Remember, supreme awareness is about understanding your identity, who you are. That's your first power. The I mind is about controlling how you feel, accessing that inner peace. That's your second power. Faith is the third power, taking responsibility for what you create. We're doing this in a conscious way. We're willing to take on whatever comes so that we can understand who we really are and be our highest self. Why? Because the people who do this have no need to be masters over other people, and they have no need to try and control or manipulate other people. They can simply love other people. That's a whole conversation. I would talk about the political ramifications of love at another date and time. That's huge though, but another date and time. The point here is that just by understanding that faith is not just some woo-woo concept that's on these spiritual circuits, it's a part of taking spiritual responsibility for your reality. It's a part of taking spiritual responsibility for what you create. It's not the first place you start. You do not start with faith. You do not start with trying to manifest different things, because if you don't know how to control your emotions, your faith, what you manifest, is going to be doing this anyway. It's going to be all kinds of weird. Sometimes you manifest good things, sometimes bad things, depend on the day. What we want to do is take responsibility even for that. That's why this book, I'm trying to tell y'all, I want to find, last time I was showing y'all the same thing, but this time it just occurred to me that I actually have a framework inside of the book. So here we are. So let me see if I can. Oh, y'all see that? You see that? You see that? Okay, so you'll see supreme awareness at the top. You'll see, coming, I think this way, you'll see the I mind, and then you'll see faith, right? So we start with supreme awareness, we move to the I mind, then we go to faith. But the thing is that as you master each one of these, you see that supreme awareness is where we start. It's our identity. It gives us access to the I mind, that quality of peace and happiness, our ability to control what we feel. that sets the stage for being able to manifest with faith. And as we manifest with faith more and more, that only serves to highlight who we really are as supreme awareness. So it all goes in a circuit. It doesn't start in a circuit. It starts linear in linear fashion, but eventually it all goes in a circuit. This is the part that I gotta get you. It's a simple concept. It's a small part of the book, but it's a key cornerstone understanding of this philosophy. That what we're talking about is starting with supreme awareness. You want to take spiritual responsibility? Start with your identity. Start with who you are. Return to your root in awareness, then start with that awareness. Beyond that, we're talking about the I mind. Getting to the place where you can say, look, I don't mind what's happening, because you know that you are responsible and can create the situation whatever you want. You're going to give up needing to manifest so that you can manifest even better. Manifestation has nothing to do with what you want. You don't need to want stuff in order to manifest, because you've had plenty of things in your life that you've manifested that you didn't want. Wanting is not the point. Buddha taught that you don't need to have attachment to desire. You don't need to want a whole bunch of stuff. I'm saying the same thing. But that the follow-up to that is, once you give up that want, you can have everything. And that is the power. Because whereas wanting is an issue, loving isn't. Doing what you love isn't. That's no issue. That's powerful. We need that. I need you to do what you love. I need you to. My children need you to do what you love. That understanding is what we're here to be talking about. That what we're manifesting is the reality we love. Because that's true freedom. It's when you have inner peace and you have outer prosperity, which means control over time. Why would you want control over your own time? So that you can do what you love. You see how that works? That's the system. That's the system that's expressed here. That's the entire system of this new model that I call transcendent psychology. And the whole point of it is to get you to take spiritual responsibility over your reality. So since we understand what faith is, we end this conversation with the question that we had at the beginning, which is, what are you creating into a problem that really isn't? I hope by now you're seeing that every problem is a problem that really isn't. So if you feel that, if you get that, just put the words LOVE, put the word love in the chat if you understand that. Because that was the whole point the whole time. Christy's saying yes. V saying love that. Dee saying can't wait. You mean for the book? Okay, wonderful. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, I kind of can't either. You know, I'm like, hurry. I want to hurry up and get through the edits. But, you know, it needs to look like it needs to be the best that it can be, so that it communicates well to you. Dee saying can't wait. V saying Neville refers to be still and know as the first principle for that very reason. That's right. I actually didn't know that about Neville. But be still and know. Yes, right. That's right. Be still and know that I am God. Right. That is the point. That is the point. Christy's saying love, and that's what it feels. V is saying love. Philip Witcher. Hey, Philip in the building. Philip saying love. Look how long you been up in here, man. You know what I'm saying? You took a little too long to say hello. What's happening, Philip? Dede saying love. Love. Me is saying love with a heart. That's what it is. That's what it is. I mean, the value of what we're talking about. When we were getting into priceless territory, I know that people talk about millions. You know what I'm saying? Like, what? I've never seen a house that I want more than the truth. I'm sorry. And I know they're selling those for 36 million. You know what I'm saying? I know they're selling. I've never seen one that I want more than the truth. I haven't. I'm sorry. I ain't seen it. So whatever I got to do, to walk in this love. I'm whatever I gotta do. Y'all, if y'all haven't seen the videos that just went up on Monday, do check those out. Do check those out. Right now I'm doing like a series with Dr. Umar Johnson. I think, those are wonderful. Yolanda Yolanda in the building. She up in this baby. Yolanda saying love. Man, where y'all cats coming from? Like my chat is like getting people in here like 20 minutes maybe after they've been in here. Or maybe they just came in. That's okay if you just came in too, but Yolanda's saying love. Yolanda's saying love. That's what it is. That's what it is. I want to start getting on here and hitting up some calls at some point. We're still trying to figure out how we want to do that so that it's not like, turn your mic on. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not this whole weird thing. Although I can't make any promises for the first time, but yeah, definitely want to start. I still want to start hearing from y'all. I want to start hearing, what you're working on. What is in your world that seems to be an obstacle, but you can feel that it's not. You can sense and feel that it's not really. I want to hear about how you're overcoming certain so-called obstacles. I mean, I want to hear, you know what I'm saying? So at some point, once I figure out the technical, y'all know how much of a time it was. If you go back and watch the first ones of these, just getting the sound right, just trying to get the quality, you know what I'm saying? Like all that stuff. There is a little technical, sort of learning curve, but once we get that stuff done, dialed in, we're good. So we've been on here for like 2 hours, 2 hours and 16 minutes. If there is nothing left, nothing that y'all wanted to bring up, or any sort of, if you want to see some extra, a certain type of content, on the actual channel, we've got great interviews coming up. And then I've also got, solo projects that, I still need to edit and all that. That's going to be coming up because one of those projects is about love. And that's the part that at the end of the day, I need everybody to have and understand. V is saying Zoom is a good platform for that. Oh, V, I believe you. She's saying Zoom is a good platform for being able to get people on. I believe you. And I got Zoom on here and the pro plan, all that. It's just going to be the task of getting people on and testing out the audio mics and, okay, how can I get that to show up to people who are watching? You know what I'm saying? It'll just be that, but I'm hearing that there might be another platform that I can use and still stream to YouTube, but do it all in one so that I don't have to, you know what I'm saying? Like, I guess there's services that do that and make it easier. So, I'll probably look and see if that works, but we'll have that up soon because I for real want to actually see and hear from y'all, man. I think that people here are on their own. Everybody's on the spiritual journey, even if they don't know it. The people here know it, you know what I'm saying? But everybody is. And so a part of building a culture where everyone is taking and stepping into the consciousness of higher consciousness, into the consciousness of supreme awareness, into their own spiritual responsibility. There has to be a way to hold space and to be able to chop it up how we need to chop it up. Because, right now it feels like it's just a YouTube live, but over time, the choices that we make together are going to be the examples that the next generation has to eat off of, has to live off of. So it's like, what are we leaving them? Understanding that next generation, even though they feel like they're our children, they're also us. Reborn, right? Consciousness obviously is never born, never dies, but I'm saying remanifested versions of ourselves over and over and over again. What kind of world you want to live in? What kind of growth do you want to have be possible for you. You dig? Like that's a part of what we're working toward is maturity as a people. It's just maturity, and in a sense, I don't mean in a pejorative sense. I mean like by taking spiritual responsibility for our reality. Okay. So Didi's saying, amazing teaching, Dr. Shawn. Thank you so much for coming. And also, Didi, I really do appreciate. I don't think you miss a video, right? And I really appreciate you for that. Um, I really appreciate you for that. I don't think I always make sure I respond, but I don't think, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm not about to get, I can only say so much in a text, or, in the comments replying to you, but I really appreciate you for, I think, taking yourself and your journey seriously. Every week I see that you're coming in and something is resonating with you in a different way. And in order to have that sort of resonance, you have to be in your own spiritual process. You have to be reflective enough to understand what you actually need and then know it when you see it. That is powerful. I'm not gonna let you just get on here and not walk away with my sincere thank you and my sincere congratulations for understanding and taking this opportunity that you have for growth to the highest level. Like that's really beautiful to see. I love that. To your next question, will the book also be available on Audible? Not right away. At some point, though, at some point, but because then I have to like sit down and like do that whole thing, and I'm like, let me get the book out first, right, and then we'll work on the Audible joint. Um, So V saying, look forward to all of it. Me as well, And so I just want to say that final word. No, thank you, DD. Thank you. I just want to say that final word of love. That's what we are. That's what we are. And so when we're thinking about manifesting, it becomes real simple to manifest that which is in accordance with love. I hear cats talking about they trying to manifest a door, an elevator door opening up, or they want to manifest a girl in a certain dress, or they want, what I'm saying, like all this stuff. I'm like, man, look, to each his own. All I'm saying is just give me what I love. All I want to do is talk about love. That's all I'm looking to be manifesting is the life that I love. And the very fact that I can be on here with you all is a testament to just how good God really is. And so with that, I will say, I want y'all to have a wonderful night, and I will see you next week.